Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals halftime show live from the BetMGM Sportsbook at the Great Lawn at State Farm Stadium. I'm Johnny Venerable. He's Bo Brock, the playmaker. Britton Golden. The Arizona Cardinals, despite numerous trips to the red zone, are down, Bo Brock, by double digits in what can only be described as a vomit-inducing first half by the Arizona Cardinals.
I was going to say frustrating, but that's a colorful way of putting it.
Yeah.
Vomit-inducing, absolutely. And obviously highlighted by the pick-6. And you've got 3 possessions here from the Arizona Cardinals, 14 plays, 8 plays, 16 plays, 6 points to show for it. They were on the outside looking into the red zone, and Kyler Murray, Michael Wilson, we'll call it miscommunication, turns into the pick-6. So you're -1 as far as your opportunities, as far as putting points on the board because of the pick-6. And you know, I look at that pick-6, Britton, and obviously you can paint it up as miscommunication. How much of the onus falls on the shoulders of the rookie wide receiver? I'm not saying call a timeout there, but if you're the quarterback, like that mistake in that area, you just can't have it.
No, and you can't. And you can kind of see, you can see it on the replay. You see Kyler Murray's trying to signal something out to Michael Wilson. I don't know if he understood what it was. You know, because you could see Kyler say something and then turn back around.
Yeah.
And Michael Wilson looks slightly lost at the time.
Yeah.
And then you can see the miscommunication off. He runs a slant when Kyler's expecting him to run a fade or a post corner, whatever it was there. So it's calling a timeout at Kyler at that point. I don't think Kyler noticed that he didn't know what was going on. I think it was something, because that's something you don't do in practice, right? I mean, we had it. Carson had hand signals that if he wanted a route change, he would just throw you a hand signal. If you missed it, that was on you. And we had a fine in our receiver room. If you missed a hand signal because you weren't paying attention to the quarterback, that was a fine for you. So nobody was on the same page in that instance, and it turns into a huge play, which is just another devastating thing for the Cardinals today, being in the red zone or close to the red zone. And like you said, you've had 30-plus plays on your 3 drives, and you got 6 points to show for it because you're not getting it done in the red zone, and that's back to Cliff Kingsbury type.
Yeah. The inefficiencies in the red zone, I think, are exacerbated by the fact that James Conner is having a tremendous first half, 72 yards. You know, you've been able to move the ball adequately with your tight ends and McBride and Higgy Bear Higgins, the rookie. I think that right now we're just going to have to accept that this is the version of the Cardinals we're getting in the red zone because of the lack of communication and familiarity with Kyler Murray and these receivers and the lack of playmaking. Like, you can't manufacture it. In the red zone, that's when you need your special skill players. And, you know, Greg Dortch right now is the only person you can rely on in this receiving corps to get the football. And a lot of people say, well, you're making excuses for Kyler Murray. No, he didn't have a good first half. He had some positives, and then he threw, a miscommunicated ball to Michael Wilson. But it really feels like, Bo, you're playing with about 8 guys offensively. And that's a distinct disadvantage for any team.
You know, I know he saw something there. And then he checks to Wilson. Like, I'm taking him out of the equation at that point. That's where I put maybe some of the fault, a lot of the fault on Kyler Murray there. It's like, if he could go one option and then the other option is catastrophic.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to that side of the football field. I'm not going in the red zone. And so many opportunities, like, we know how few opportunities you have, and they've had several opportunities now, and they haven't cashed in. Like, I'm going to my money guys in that situation. I'm not even looking at the guy who hasn't logged a catch in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, like, you have to be almost ultra-conservative. It's just like, well, James Conner's getting us 5 yards a carry, almost 6 yards a carry. You know, Trey McBride's catching everything, as is Greg Dortch. Why even entertain Michael Wilson or Rondell Moore or anybody else in that scenario? Like, and he doesn't look right. He's not able to kind of scramble around outside of a sack like we typically see. He's taking a couple bad sacks. This was a first half that I think was tailored for Kyler to have big stats.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't able to take advantage. That's really disheartening, especially going into a pivotal offseason.
Oh, and especially with the way that they started the football game. Right? You started with a 15, 20-yard pass to McBride. You backdoor it with James Conner with a couple nice runs. You're moving the ball down the field. You're taking time off the clock. You're allowing your defense to rest. And then you fail in the red zone, right? You kick a field goal. You do it again, you fail in the red zone. That's the common theme right now is you're getting down in the red zone and you're not converting. And when you've got 1st and 10 or whatever it was on the 3-yard line, and you had a Kyler Murray scramble, and then your very next play call is, let's run a quarterback sweep to the left.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, one, Kyler's got to hold on to the football. He was lucky he got it back. But, I mean, offensive lineman completely whiffs on the defensive lineman, and now you've got a problem where you've got a defensive lineman in the backfield in Kyler Murray's face 9 yards deep.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's week after week when we get down inside the low red zone, and it's just a horrendous play call that backtracks your 1st and 10 or your 2nd and short inside the goal, inside the 5-yard line. So that doesn't help your already wet
Well, they
red
already
zone
have
woes.
such a small margin for error.
Yeah.
But look at how Philly creates their own luck, right? You see what good teams do, even when the play goes horribly awry, where Andre Sachare gets his hand on a football in the red zone on a Jalen Hurts pass, and it falls into an ancient Julio Jones's hands for his 2nd touchdown of the game. I mean, Julio Jones putting himself in a position to box out cornerbacks and have space between them, where if Kyler Murray makes a mistake, Michael Wilson is so far off the same page with Kyler Murray, it turns into a catastrophic play the other way.
Yeah.
It's just, just things just aren't going. Like, this season can't come to a close like any quicker. Like, there was so many this is why this game is so frustrating, because there was so much opportunity out there. Like, Philly had the ball for like a second in that first half. Like, they were on the field. Like, they get the opening drive stop, right? 3 and out from Jalen Hurts in this offense. And then they have this big 14-play drive that ends by, a bad 1st and goal play call. And it completely torpedoes everything. And then things just continue to fester. It's kind of encapsulates the whole season right there. It's really unfortunate. And, the same Kyler Murray, like, who has had opportunities to kind of put, claim to this quarterback position, has yet to do that in another opportunity to do so. And that's what's frustrating.
Sly, Super Chat, $5. Thank you so much. Need Harbaugh and a new QB coach, or a new QB to correct this in 2024. Well, you're not going to get a new coach. I think Jonathan Gannon has done a pretty admirable job. I think it's a talent problem. But the second half of that question, and I really just, this is going to be a point of emphasis here it feels like for the next 10-plus days into this offseason. BG, I'll start with you. Is Kyler Murray leaving the door open with his play to have a successor in the form of Caleb Williams or Drake May? Because we talked about it. I thought he was on the trajectory, and I still feel like the organization has a comfort level with him. Does he need to be doing more?
Well, you'd obviously want to see him do more. But what we saw in the first drive was what we wanted to see out of your quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Good throws. You're getting it out, getting the ball out quick. You're making the right read. You're completing passes. The ball's being run. It's a coherent offense.
Yeah.
And then you just backdoor it with bad play. But it's never off the table that, especially when you're picking top 3 in the draft, that a quarterback is not going to be taken. It's never off the table. Do I think that they should go that route? I mean, you're lacking in so many positions that drafting a quarterback is not going to solve your problems. I hate to break it to you, Arizona Cardinals fans, but drafting a quarterback 1, 2, 3 overall is not going to make you a better football team immediately. So there's so many needs that you need around on this team that you don't have. You don't have playmakers on offense or the defensive side of the ball. So it's really hard to be a franchise quarterback when you have no playmakers.
I see Kenny Sanchez in the chat, and I completely agree with him. I don't want crybaby Williams. There's so many red flags with Caleb Williams. Like, no longer is he like this untouchable prospect that people tabbed as the most generational prospect since Trevor Lawrence, who's the most generational since Andrew Luck. And, obviously Caleb Williams is the most talented player in this draft at the quarterback position. But, I think the argument is Kyler Murray hasn't taken that door, and now it's going to be the 7th game since returning and slammed it shut.
Right.
Right? You still have to put on the tape. You still have to make a tough decision, and you have to evaluate and weigh the pros and cons as far as moving forward with Kyler Murray or pivoting to a rookie quarterback in the draft. And now you have to let the tape speak for itself and then make the decision. Like, I'm not making that decision as much as I want the Cardinals and Kyler Murray to have made that decision for them. I just don't think that he has, definitively done that thus far. And there's been opportunities. Like, he even had opportunities to play himself out of that during the 7-game stretch. And it'll probably be 8-game stretch when it's all said and done.
Well, I mean, it still feels like, and this game's not lost. They're still only down by 14. They get the ball to start the second half. But if they win one of these next 2 games, that decision is almost made already with Drake May and Caleb Williams potentially going 1-2. But I think at the end of the day, to BG's point, and it's a point, Bo, you and I make consistently, it's just a rookie quarterback, while it resets things from a financial standpoint, it is not going to lead to immediate success for this franchise.
But here's what this franchise is about now. Long-term success.
Well, but how many more seasons can you endure like this? Like, there's a path, and we've outlined it, where you upgrade skilled players and you upgrade the defense this offseason. Kyler Murray gets a full offseason, and you're competitive next year, as opposed to punting on Marvin Harrison Jr. or somebody like that and taking a quarterback and starting completely
over. If Monty Ossenfort, if Jonathan Gannon, if Drew Petzing, if the decision makers of this organization turn on the tape and say, there's a ceiling to this, and they feel like it's not the right move, and the decision is now to move off of it because of this position you are in draft-wise. Like, I hate that. I wanted this conversation to be done and over with, but unfortunately, it's not.
No, it's not.
And look, everybody who watches this podcast, and if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much. Subscribe to this channel.
Like it.
Hit this like. But I've been in Kyler Murray's corner, and I agree with you. I think that's the quickest path back to relevancy in contending. But at some point, you got to show me something.
Maybe he does it in the second half. Regardless, we're going to be back here immediately following the second half live at the BetMGM Sportsbook at the Great Lawn at State Farm Stadium. One more half to go in the road season for 2023. As my counterpart said, this cannot end fast enough. Can we see some fireworks? We'll see on the postgame show.
We all silly like the mayor.